Welcome everyone, this is Zs.SuperCumulo, your host, and today I will shoutcast match 22. This is one of the latest games from the season 27. We're gonna start off right away at the 11 o'clock position where we have Belfort, our player from France. He is a solid player, really. He has very outstanding knowledge of the free for all scene in general. He knows how to adapt to most circumstances. One particular weakness about this player is that he may tunnel vision certain races, such as undead, but other than that, he is overall a really good player who can surprise you if you are not careful. He starts at the 1 o'clock, I'm sorry, 11 o'clock, uh, dark green color, which is a very imbalanced color for any map, really. But colors were assigned randomly, I suppose. So yeah, let's see how he does here. The map is Fountain of Manipulation, by the way. This is a map made by Red7CZZ, and it's a very well-known map for FFA. Then at the 1 o'clock we have LS Bomber, who I have also shoutcasted in the past, last week. He is from Peru. He plays Undead, but I think he can play Orc also. He is new to the scene, so he's still learning. People have been giving him a lot of crap for not adapting fast enough, but people always find a reason an excuse to complain and whine. He's starting with the opening Fiend build, which is a most common. It's the most common build order that you would see in FFA. The other approach would be to start off with your heroes alone and then take two gargoyles only, and that can also work, but for this case he chose fiends. Then at the 5 o'clock we have Fera Ug, who is probably one of the most caustic guys in the community. His behavior is very corrosive. But he plays Orc and also Night Elf, I think. This time he opened up with Warmill and just a solo Blade Master. He's gonna go and try to creep green camps, most likely. Take to tier 3 and then just get only heroes. Finally, at the. Oh, yeah, by the way, Fera Uk is from Sweden. Finally, at the 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, we have 7. Okay, 7 o'clock, we have Star Shaped, who is, I've been told he is a very old school player from way back in the day. I don't know how long ago, but he is well known for his solo background, I guess. His race is Night Elf, I think, and he is also from Sweden. This is the first time I see him in the community. Maybe he did join before season 21, but this is the first time I'm observing him playing. He did open up with Dark Ranger and a couple of archers, which is one of the most common hero combinations that you will see. Maybe Dark Ranger with Panda, sometimes Dark Ranger with Alchemist, but Panda is a more solid choice as second hero. He's gonna creep this expansion right here outside his main base, which would be his natural expansion. He's already going tier 2. He's gonna get possibly level 2.5 from this, and then he's gonna move on to maybe get a Shredder and get his level 3 and just continue creeping. So the map, once again, Fountain of Manipulation, very well known map for games of of FML. Usually the games here tend to be between 1 hour and 1 hour and a half. At most you will see it. Yeah, I mean between 1 hour and a half and 2 hours. But anything longer than that, it's very unlikely to happen on this game. That is because most of the gold mines only have, well, 15,000 is okay for your natural expansion. Maybe mid ones are 1250. Yeah, so 12.5k. So in general, the game is designed. I mean, the map is designed for early conflict, for early aggression between players, and usually having not such a long three-way. But yeah, let's see how the game's performing on this particular map. We see here that Star Shape is going for the Goblin Laboratory. I believe Hightech was talking with him privately, so maybe Hightech did give him some advice on how to creep, on what his objectives should be early on. And so far, Star Shaped, who is new, just like Bomber, So far, Starship has made those objectives, has accomplished those objectives quite well. Level 3, and he's gonna get a Goblin Shredder here. Yep, so, and he's already tier 2, most likely, well, very close. So yeah, he's doing well. As for Fera, Fera is putting up his first expansion. He's creeping with a solo Blade Master. He's probably going tier 3. Nope, he's gonna get a couple of Wyverns and Shadow Hunter second, so he's gonna prioritize focusing fire heroes and just play with very few units, light air, such as Wyverns. Bomber, on the other hand, going for the 3 o'clock maybe expansion. He is, since he's new to the scene, and he, for what he's told me, he doesn't have much time to practice FFA. He's mostly a solo player, so maybe he's gonna go here and try to do some aggro. He does see the Blade Master, but he's not coiled. Is he? Yeah, he does coil, so he kills the Blade Master. So Fera wasn't paying attention there, and he loses his hero, and now he's gonna lose this expansion. So this was quite a surprise. I don't know how Bomber saw that. Does he have a shade? No. Maybe he was scouting or something. Usually people, FFA players, usually around this time, 6-minute mark, 5-minute marks, they have most of his units in the red. So, like for example here, Belfort, he has a couple of footmen in the red. So Star Shaped could easily push him and probably even finish Belfort instead of creeping. But Belfort, I'm sorry, but Star Shape is gonna focus on continue creeping, getting some levels, items, gold experience, and possible gold mines to expand later on. So here we see that Bomber is going to creep this 3 o'clock expansion. He might go for the Ogre Lore, but this Ogre Lore has armor +5, the inner fire. He also has the healing from the forest troll high priest, so it's gonna be hard to bring him down unless he has a lich or something else to help him with that. Let's go to Belfort. Let's see what he's doing. Belfort, well, he started taking very late because he's not even in tier 2 yet. He's building up a blacksmith. I wonder if he will go rifles again or if he's gonna do something different this time. His heroes, well, his only hero, level 3 Archmage, very few footmen. Star Shaped, if he does a scout, if he does a scout, he can see that Belfort is very vulnerable and might not be able to stand against an early push from archers, dryads, and double and 2 heroes level 4 and 3. So, but instead, Starship is gonna creep this, possibly get level 3 for his panda, and very close to 4.5 for his Dark Ranger. Fera continues to creep. He doesn't have an expansion yet. He's just building it right now. He is almost tier 3. He's gonna get a TC most likely, get the poison for his wyverns, and also the Orb of Lightning. So he will continue creeping with that, but he did fall behind because he lost his Blade Master and his expansion due to the fact that Bomber did creep jacked him. So for now, Bomber is still a tier 2, which is not really ideal. As an undead, you want to take as fast as you can. He does have a couple of towers here in his expansion just to be safe, and that's a good thing to do. But usually on this particular map, yes, it can be done, it can be good, but you have to consider that a lot of resources are invested into your towers, so you could use those resources for upgrades or maybe getting your macro up, like a couple of crypts and other buildings instead. So Star Shape actually creeping all of the map, Belfort creeping as little as possible really. He's gonna get maybe level 2 at most, but Star Shape definitely getting all of them gold mines right here, creeping all of them in. He's getting decent items, decent amount of gold. At the same time, we see that Bomber did cancel the Orc expansion for a second time. This must be very annoying for Fera. Fera is now putting up a lot of towers. He's gonna try to play the turtle game. He's gonna stay in his base and rely on towers and his heroes to defend, but that in the long run might not even work that well. Now, Belfort is now going for the Death Knight. The Death Knight has to be careful not to get Hex again and right clicked by the Blade Master. The Blade Master actually does have Potion of Invulnerability, so that's gonna be used, and after that he will most likely force the undead to TP out. He does that just in time. So that was a bad attempt Bomber to attack the Orcs main base. In the meantime, we see that Star Shape gets into an early engagement versus Belfort, and Starship does have most of his archers in the red, so he better be careful not to lose them all. Although, who knows, maybe that's his intention, since he, as a Knight player, will most likely be using cheapos instead of archers, dryads, and bears. As a matter of fact, if we look at his base, we see 3 Ancients of Wind and most likely Chimera Rus. Yes, so he's gonna play the standard cheapo army from the elf race, and that's not such a bad idea. Oh, lol copter, that's kind of funny. He actually helped Belfort in some sense to get the panda to TP out of there, and now Belfort loses the panda and he's forced to TP out. I'm sorry, to run away. He has to move these peasants back also, otherwise he's gonna lose them. So Eldest Bomber here playing very Rambo style, going against everyone. He did cancel the expansions from the Orc, then he forced Starshape to TP out, and now he's chasing the human. So this is a bad scenario for Belfort, now that he's the last one who has to deal with this undead player. In the meantime, we see that Fera is most likely scouting for any possible expansions or remaining creeps so that he can get some extra experience, but he is far behind in terms of gold and also levels from the other 3 players. Here we see that Belfort is actually trying to fight breakers against fiends, which is not bad really. The only problem is that he only has one hero who is about to die, and he needs more units, better units actually, that have more damage than just spell breakers. The undead could easily just not tome him, but definitely do significant amount of damage, especially to this expansion, by just having air units or skeletons from the Rod of Necromancer. So this is a difficult push for the human to defend, because he does need better units, and the fact that he has panda really doesn't help that much. MK is what you need against undead in this scenario, but he did go panda because he knows he's facing a night elf and also an orc. So overall a very he actually lost the archmage. I suppose maybe the undead coiled him. So this is bad for Belfort. Belfort must be furious now. He did fight a star shaped in the center early on, and then he is fighting the undead. As for now, the Nidos player, star shaped, is actually still at 50. He's building a couple more of Chimera Rus and Ancients of Wind. The orc, just with an expansion now, with 2 heroes, very low gold and lumber. Maybe not the best scenario for him, but this is all he can do for now. Belfort is gonna lose this expansion, so it's looking really bad for him. He also has this other expansion at 12 o'clock, but given the way, or the way in terms of where the undead is going, the undead will catch this expansion and most likely kill it. Okay, so the undead now, let's see at if he's at 50. No, he's at 67 with only 67 lumber. He doesn't even have a shredder, which proves that he has not zero, but very little knowledge about FFA. On this map, you can get a shredder from the Goblin Laboratory and improve your conditions in terms of gathering lumber. He does kill the peasants here, and then he decides to creep the center of the map. Maybe he did see Star Shape going for it. Now he's gonna try to focus the hero, and Star Shape is forced to back and stuff his hero out. So here we have Bomber, who first denied the Orcs expansion twice, and then went into a fight with Belfort, and now he's competing with a Star Shape for the center of the map. We see a player who is this active and attacking everyone at the same time. It's a very it's not the ideal way to play FFA, but it's one way of playing FFA nonetheless. After all, it's not called FFA for nothing. Here we see that the panda is staffed out, so Starship is forced to TP out, which is not a bad thing, but all things considered, Starship is at 50 population. He has about 5,000 gold, so 350 gold from TP and maybe 160 from a Hippogriff. In all, 500 gold lost there. might not be such a big impact when you have 2 expansions and you're still at 50 and your economy is just growing. Now, especially with such a good upgrades here. So Starshape now decided it's tired of being pushed around by the undead and decides to go tier 3. The question is, will Starshape cross map the undead because of the early aggression, or will he go for Fera instead? As for Belfort, Belfort now has tanks and spellbreakers, which are, I would say, the most common unit to get against undeads and against Nidals, but you have to know how to play that. Sorry, you have to know how to play that because with low hero levels such as Panda level 3, Panda and Paladin level 2, it's not so great. I mean, it can be done, but it takes an enormous amount of effort. So I don't know if this army alone can deal against, let's say, fiends, destroyers, frostworms. Here we see that Belfort is bringing just that type of army, the standard type of army: fiends, destro, gargoyle, frostworm. So nice army for bomber. The only problem is that he has probably low gold. Yes, he's at 70, 80, and he has 85 out of 100, which is not ideal. You want to stay at 80 for some time before you decide to commit to 100. Now, the orc, after losing his second expansion here, he's running around. Maybe he will try to apply some pressure, but with only 2 heroes and and 2 wyverns, that's probably not gonna work. He's just gonna focus on creeping a little bit more. In the meantime, we see that Belfort is trying to recover this 12 o'clock expansion, but that's very risky. Also, now Starshape hitting the orc space with 5 chimeras, couple of hippogriffs, and Panda level 4. This army is not gonna be enough to stop this many air units. So Starshape should be in good shape there to finish off the orc if he decides to proceed. At the same time, we see an engagement here between Belfort and Bomber. Belfort, due to the fact that he blocked his own tanks and his Archmage got right-clicked so hard, he had to TP out of there, and that fight went theoretically in favor of Bomber because he forced a TP and probably didn't lose much. So, going back to this fight right here, Starshape has to be careful not to lose his Panda. He's putting him in the back, and he does have decent items to prevent him from dying to the right click from the Blade Master, and it looks like it will be over for Fera. Fera lost both of his heroes without even trying to micro them, but then again, it's not that easy to micro against Keeper level 3 and couple of Chimeras, so it looks like Fera might lose his main base, and after that it's just gonna be a matter of time. Fera possibly giving up now because he doesn't really have. I mean, he has this expansion here, but it's so obvious that it's gonna be the next target that he is forced to probably possibly get away with this peon and this other peon. No, it's Sentry War. Okay, so in the meantime, we see that Bomber is bringing a mid wagon just to attack, I suppose, the tanks or the town hall. The Panda is getting heavily right click. This is one disadvantage of going Panda, is that your hero just gets I mean, he doesn't have as much of an impact early on, and against an undead who can just right click it, you will never be able to heal it on time and prevent him from dying. Basically, it's like you're trading one hero for nothing really. And also, let's use the Zeppelin there to save the Paladin, but the Paladin will go down if he isn't careful there. With this many breakers, he should be able to withstand this many fiends. The only problem is that the undead can just hit and run, and it will eventually he could eventually get rid of most of these units, or at least take them to a point where Belfort has very little anti-air and all the undead has to do is right-click your heroes. So not looking good for Belfort in my opinion, but it's not looking good for Fera either. Fera trying to defend here with the few towers that he's got, but the Chimera's long range will inevitably win this fight here. So going back to the 12 o'clock, we see that the air is just demolishing the tanks. Tanks do well in large amounts, but the large amounts imply that you have to go above 80, so that's something that Belfort cannot really afford to do now with only 900 gold. and yeah, Belfort will lose this expansion. And these spellbreakers do not have enough damage per second. As a matter of fact, the armage goes down immediately due to the heavy right click from the undead triple hero combo. And the tanks seem to be doing okay, but they really aren't, because heavy air just is just, it doesn't die to siege tank while 14 damage to 16 damage, and also he has a Obsidian statue here healing them, healing his air, so no problem really. These tanks are going to be useless, and then the spellbreakers will die to the fiends and the destros and gargoyles and everything else. So yeah, Belfort loses everything there. It's not even funny. At the same time, we see that the star shape is finishing off the orcs main base. So in terms of gold here, we see that for example, Bomber has 700 gold, Belfort has 1000 gold, 1.2 to be exact, and Star Shaped at 6k gold, which is a lot. Meanwhile, we see Ferauk with only 83 gold, and I don't think he does have more peons or even a town hall, so this is critical for him. He might be the first one out. At the same time, we see that Belfort is losing the fight here against Bomber. Bomber is bringing up more fiends, one mid wagon just to be sure. And this army composition, even though it's great against human early on, it will fall apart against other type of armies such as the cheapo army that Star Shape has. Not to mention that the gold disadvantage or the gold difference from both players, the Undead and the Night Elf, is just enormous. So inevitably, the Night Elf player, who is also a decent player in general, should win this game because of the huge gap in terms of resources. Also, and the Night Elf has been at 80 this whole time, while the Undead was, I believe, at some point 85 or even above. Yes, he's at 100 now. So this is an all push, all in type of push. So the commitment here is real for Bomber. He might end up winning this fight and everything, but that's gonna really, even though he might win against the human, the question is how is he gonna win against the Night Elf? And here he TPs to defend this expansion from falling apart, because Fera was hitting him since, I suppose, since the Undead attacked or cancelled the Orc expansion twice in the past. Now the Orc has decided to return the favor by forcing ATP or being annoying, but Fed is gonna lose both of his heroes at level 1 and level 2, so even though that gave Belfort a little bit of time, eventually Belfort will have to fight the Undead once again. And how to counter that type of army, more breakers and more tanks, I don't know if that's the answer. The answer, I think, is very difficult to figure out because of the huge disadvantage in terms of hero levels. All he can hope for now, Belfort, is that the Night Elf put some pressure on the Undead and loses some units. In the meantime, we see here that Star Shaped, after having finished Fera, is going now for the second strongest player, I believe, who would be the Undead. And in this army composition, Chimeras and Hippogriffs should be enough to at least force the Undead to drop below 80. Now the Undead isn't sure about fighting or not, and it looks like no, he's gonna back for now. At the same time, we see the Blade Master is harassing the ghouls, and not to mention, Bomber doesn't have a lot of lumber. He only has 400, so that he hasn't gotten a shredder yet, which is not ideal. I think Bomber here sees the Blade Master. He might be able to kill it. Who knows? Well, so far Star Shape is leading, possibly at 8,000 gold. Yes, 8,000. Belfort is now putting pressure on the Night Elf. I think that he identified that he might have better chances against. He might have better chances in winning the game if he fought someone whose army is weaker versus spellbreakers and tanks. Because if he fights breakers and tanks versus this, then this Undead army should win. But if he fights breakers and tanks versus this, then maybe Belfort can do better. So here the undead now, basically without scouting the map, without using shades or even chatting at all, which is quite important now, especially when once you have acquired a certain level of experience in FFA. Chatting can help you in terms of trying to find out what's going on, but never rely a lot of your decisions on chat. Rely most of it on scouting and seeing what's the army composition and how everything else went on, like who won, hero levels, items, all of that. Chatting is just one minimum aspect. You can win the game without chat, and I've seen people do that, and that's quite impressive. But for this particular player, Bomber, who is new, I don't think it's gonna happen due to the goal difference between the undead and and himself. I'm sorry, between the Night Elf, Star Shaped, and himself, the undead. So we see here a fight between Belfort and Star Shaped. Belfort is just right clicking whatever he can with his spell breakers, but without an MK who can bolt and surround, it's not gonna do a lot of damage really. I mean, the Panda is great against these many fiends. I'm sorry, chimeras and hippogriffs. The problem is that the Panda could get disabled by the silence, and also is very slow. I wonder if Belfort does have Panda with boots. Maybe he does. Here the blood mage, the archmage is actually getting out of position and gets easily killed by entangle and right click. So that's actually very difficult to handle. Even though Belfort does have the right army composition, and he's doing an okay amount of damage to the air from Starshape, he cannot really get in a good position to fight because he doesn't have the levels. Basically, Belfort is struggling here. I kind of feel sorry for him because he did fight the undead first and he lost the battle, and now he's fighting the Night Elf and he's losing the battle. So it's not entirely his fault. It's like a combination of their random random factors here. And we see here that Starshape is trying to now finish off the humans so that he can possibly have a 1v1 versus undead. Maybe he feels confident that 100 population army of cheapos can deal against the undead fiend Destro Guard army, which is true for the most part. We see that Starshape actually has about well, he has one expansion, but he's building two more, and now he even built an Ancient of War here to try to finish off the buildings from Fera. Fera is still around, walking around, like, yeah, he's just walking around trying to, I don't know, do something. Like a fruit fly, I guess. Here, Bomber will creep this, he will get some good experience out of it, maybe level 4 5, no, only levels 4. After that, I wonder if he's gonna decide to attack the Night Elf or he will go back to the human. If I look very quickly on the Undead's point of view, oh, he does have a shade, so, but he has it right next to his hero, and he also, I'm sorry, Undead, not Starshape, who is Undead? Bomber, okay, Bomber. Bomber does have a shade, and he knows that, well, I think he knows that this guy is dead, and now he's gonna fight the Night Elf, and he has to TP out of there, or otherwise he's gonna lose everything. The Night Elf is at 100, must be at 100, and this army composition is so difficult to beat when you only have a couple of fiends and a couple of gargoyles, and you're not kiting. So, in my opinion, Bomber will most likely lose one hero and maybe all of his air. He has to be careful not to fall behind. But the Panda, we know, without boots, not such a good idea. What about the Keeper? The Keeper has boots. Keeper of the Grove doesn't have boots. So that's one thing to consider for the next round. He needs boots, otherwise he would not be able to catch heroes on time. Maybe he prioritizes other items. But that Lich is gonna fall nevertheless. And that's just gonna be bad for them. They're gonna be forced to back and then reconsider what army to get. But I don't think he has the economy to do that. No, he only has 600. So now the Night Elf is gonna go for the human. Maybe he's afraid of tanks, so he's gonna focus on killing the castles first, maybe, and then proceed with the farms. At the same time, we see that the Ancient of Wars are destroying the Orcs' remaining buildings, and also Panda at level 6, which is a nice feature for the for Star Shaped. Now he's gonna be able to defend. I mean, to even to use his ultimate in case his hero is about to go down and he doesn't want to staff him. So yeah, Star Shaped at 6,000 gold, while everyone else is below 1,000 gold, possibly even Belfort. Belfort now losing his main base. He only has a couple of tanks and spell breakers and one hero, so it doesn't look bright for him. It looks more like he's gonna lose this game. At least Belfort will. Bomber here using this gargoyle to bait the Blade Master. Blade Master actually is being slept and he's trying to walk away, but it's not gonna be enough. He's gonna die now, and without it, he just has to wait for the Agent of Wars to destroy his buildings. At the same time, here we see that Star Shaped did charm a peasant and is building a couple of towers just to defend against the tanks, maybe, or against something. He does have a lot of movement, so he will never run out of mana, or he will be able to heal immediately and go back to the fight. Belfort trying to rebuild here at the 3 o'clock, but Fountain of Manipulation is not one of those maps where you can rebuild and get your economy back again, unless unless your opponents completely forget about you. So here, since Star Shape is chasing these tanks and he actually has 100 army population, he will probably finish off these tanks and then eventually catch up with the few breakers. Although, in my opinion, this should be it for Belfort. Belfort really doesn't have much. He's gonna, if he loses this, then he's out, I think. Now the Undead does have 4 Destroyers and 2 Frostworms, couple of Gargoyles, but that, again, that's not gonna be enough against all of these. He does have a lot of Chimeras, so that's gonna be enough damage to just kill the Undead heroes immediately. They're gonna melt to the Entangle Roost and the fierce power of magic damage from 8 Chimeras. Basically, at this point, the Undead is really looking very, very, very weak. He doesn't even have ITP, or no, he does, but he needs a potion of invulnerability, and he needs to kite efficiently, which I don't know if that can happen, especially because his movement speed seems very odd, as if he's not moving fast enough. I don't know what's wrong here, but definitely not looking bright in my opinion for him. Not just to consider the goal difference, but also the hero level difference and the type of army that he's got. Okay, so Belfort out, Ferauk out, so it's basically a 1v1 now between Bomber and the Knight of. Bomber might get levels 5 out of this. No, he only has level 4 on his Dreadlord, and he does have a scroll of healing, which is good, but I don't know if that's gonna make any difference. Actually, he's at 175 gold and 88 population. He's producing more gargoyles, but at this point, it's basically a non-factor. You can have 1,000 gargoyles. Well, if you have 1,000, then you can. Yes, no, never mind. I mean, okay, so basically, you can add more gargoyles to your army, but the panda, I mean, it just looks like the elf player can just A-click on the ground and finish off whatever Bomber has, especially because the Night Elf will focus with his 8 Chimera, 8, right? 8 or 9? It's quite a lot. So the Night Elf can basically right-click with his control 1 group. He can right-click the undead heroes and basically get rid of them in one heartbeat. And after that, it's just a matter of time before everything else falls apart. So definitely looking bright for the Night Elf. He even charmed a couple of spell breakers just to add to his army some extra units. Here is gonna. It looks like this will be the last fight between Star Shaped from Sweden and Bomber from Peru. And for what it looks like, I mean, Bomber has to come here and try to do some kiting. He might attempt to do that, but I don't know if he's an expert on it. He does play solo, and in solo there is some level of kiting, but mostly done with fiends, not with air, unlike FFA. So we'll have to see how he performs here. But still, I mean, 90 population army versus 100 and 105 actually. So that's a 15 population difference. Not to mention that the hero levels and the army composition goes in favor of the Knight of player Star Shaped. So this should be it really. I mean, here we see. Oh yeah, I mean there is a fountain in the center, so yeah, the nuke is basically irrelevant here. Nice use of silence there, just to silence all of the heroes, and this is gonna force um, the undead to back. But for now, once they fight a straight-on collision, in a straight-on collision, it's just gonna go in favor of the undead. I'm sorry, of the night elf, no matter what. Even Bomber actually drops three of the healing wars, thinking that they will make a difference. But against these many griffins, I'm sorry, hippogriffs, it's just not gonna matter. And the DK is actually forced to TP out while the Lich dies. So basically only 2 heroes left for Bomber, and he calls GG. And that was it, folks. That was a fast game, 35-minute game. Thank goodness I don't want to shoutcast for, I don't know, 2 hours. But yeah, first place goes to Star Shaped from Sweden, second to Bomber from Peru. Belfort, unfortunately, due to the randomness of this game, he finished third, and Ferauk fourth. So 22 points go to Star Shaped, who it really did perform well. I think that he was given a lot of free space to do whatever he wanted for at least the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game, which led him to a huge goal difference. And without it, I think, I mean, if he had faced some other players with more FFA experience, better chatting skills, manipulation skills, as I call it, he might have had a more difficult time. But I think he would have still finished in the top 2 for certain, or top 3 at least. So yeah, that was it for today. This was match 22. We will have the random draft for, no, not random draft. We will have round 3 and 4 published next week. Please visit us at www.ffamasters.net, where you can find all of our latest content, and you can just talk to the community. There are a lot of folks there who play FFA regularly during the mornings and afternoons, I think, at least Eastern time. And on the weekends, we usually play Sundays, a couple of games at least. Yeah. So that was it for today. Have a good day, guys. Bye bye.